1940, it was commissioned to be built. It wasn't completed until 1985. But that opened up 284 miles that you didn't have to go on the Mississippi River, which makes that route a lot more palatable.
That canal, they moved more dirt for that than they did for the Panama Canal.
Wow. So the route encompasses about 16 states, plus or minus Canada. When the SCOTUS did it, it was during COVID and they were not allowed in Canada. Most people do take the Canadian route. And the theory is you spring up, so you follow the good weather north, then you spend, this is the Erie Canal, or our first loop, we went up this way and went to Quebec City, but you end up in Canada in the summer months, and then you fall down. So spring up, fall down, go up the East Coast to New York Harbor, then the Hudson River, and then you have a choice to make, whether you go west on the Erie Canal, or as we did our first loop, go north through the Chambly Canal and come up out into the St. Lawrence Seaway. Either way, you end up in Lake Ontario and a canal system called the Trent Severn. It is part of the provincial park system in Ontario. It's a series of 44 locks. They're all run by college kids. A lot of them are hand cranked, and it's really, really fun because the kids are so excited and happy to see boaters, and it's really the most spectacular part of the loop, I think. Especially, we visited Marty. She bought me a 40-pound bag of candy, and I made little bags of candy, and I started handing it out to the kids. And all these locks talk to each other. So when we get there, they go, "Oh my God, are you the candy boat? Are you the candy boat?" So you eventually end up in Chicago, and then you follow the river system down to Mobile Bay, and then take the Gulf back around and back to Florida. So that is it in a nutshell. In my history at Marathon Yacht Club, these are the people that I know personally that have done it. So keep in mind that in the early 2000s, only about 200 people completed the loop in a year, which was less than people that climbed Mount Everest. Now it's about 600. But so just the people that I know here at this club, George and Nancy Bakehouse, some of you guys will know, Harry and Melinda Keith, Bill and Jan Melman, Willie and Karen, and do you remember their last name? They have a navigator, but cannot remember their last name. George and Pat Hospodar, Jerry and Marty Richardson, who've done it 3 times, and Jeff and Cliff, and then Dan and I have done it twice.
And we've done it. And us too.
All right.
Yeah.
I knew that there was probably more people out there that have done it. Skip and Betsy Leffler did about half of it in their big catamaran. They got to one of the last locks in the Trent Severn, and they were too wide to go further, so they had to come back. They knew that ahead of time, but so there's an association called the Great Loop, American Great Loop Cruisers Association. It was started in 1999 as a way to assist people who wanted to do this trip. They have harbor hosts that will do everything from pick you up, take you to the grocery store, get your mail, take you to the veterinarian, that kind of thing. There's also a daily blog that covers everything from navigation to what do you have for docktails tonight to maintenance items. It has ballooned to about 6,000 members. So you're never alone doing this trip. And people are like, how can you do it? It's almost 6,000 miles. It's only a series of day trips. Thank you. just plan your 30-day miles that you're gonna do tomorrow, and that's all you really need to worry about. Any questions?
Do you travel Lake Erie or not?
No, SCOTUS did. You have to go through Lake Erie if you bypass Canada. Did you, do you have to do the Welland Canal?
We could not do the Welland.
Cause you need,
Because of Canada.
oh, that's because part of that's in Canada.
So you only did Lake Erie because you couldn't do Canada.
Yeah, so there's a way, if you do the Erie Canal, we jumped out at Oswego into Lake Erie, but you can take the Erie Canal all the way to Buffalo.
We took the boat to Buffalo, but the bridges are lower.
Yeah.
Past Oswego, so depending on the size of your boat, ours was small enough to do it, but most of them had to turn north.
Yeah, we would have to take our radar arch completely down, which we can do, but I think you have to get down to 3 inches or something.
Yeah, it's pretty tight.
Even going up the Chambly Canal into, Lake Champlain, that's low too, 17. But if you talk to the first, lockmaster, they actually can drop the pool a couple inches. But that was tight, Dan, we caught Captain Clinch.
The first, going up to Chambly, it's at, Waterford, New York, where the Erie splits off. And the first bridge, they claim is 17 and a half. But I took my, anchor light down, and my radar cleared inside like this much.
So we did our first loop in 2010. We took a year to do it. So April 10 to March of 11, we did about 5,900 nautical miles. Our second loop we did left in March of 17. We ended up back here in January of 18 because a little thing called Irma happened. And we had to leave our boat in Charlevoix, Michigan. Luckily, Marty and Jerry were there, fed the cat, watched the boat. And Dan and I came back for that for about 3 weeks. So by the time we got back to the boat, we were short on good weather. So we really believed back, and then Dan really felt like he knew all of you wanted to be able to flush, so we cut our trips short so he could get back here and make sure.
Make that happen, right? We were so late, in fact, on that second trip, we came down the Wisconsin side of Lake Michigan, and we were in Egg Harbor, Wisconsin, and they told us you have to leave on Wednesday because we close, or on Thursday because the marina closes on Friday. We're turning off the water, we're turning off the electric, you gotta get on.
And what month was that?
October.
Oh.
So we cut that one short, but
Yeah.
for a good reason. So Dan took 13,000 pictures on our first
I don't
loop.
exaggerate, 14,000.
So we narrowed it down to about, I don't know, 30 or so, just some highlights for us.
Yeah.
Quick question.
So, go, yeah.
Where's the Tim Tom on here?
So the 10 ton is,
Your finger's almost on it.
Yeah,
Oh,
right
No, that's the Mississippi.
that's the Mississippi
The
here.
one next to it,
Yeah, so this is, the Mississippi to the Ohio River, and then the 10 Tom comes out in Mobile.
That's really long. Is that the Tom Bigby?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
You only
yeah.
have to do the Mississippi from the Illinois to the Ohio, it's only 180 miles. That's all you gotta be on the Mississippi. And then you take the Ohio to the Cumberland River.
I think the Ohio is like 15 miles or
Yeah,
something.
to the Cumberland River, and then that takes you into the lakes, Kentucky Lake and Lake Barkley. There's one of the biggest locks there, it's like almost
The high-
192 feet
Oh my
lift
God.
to get into those lakes.
Yeah, so we've done everything from these tiny little hand crank locks that our boat is about takes up the lock, to the locks on that,
St. Lawrence.
St. Lawrence, which you feel like a little tiny bobber in there.
How many locks?
The first loop, I think we did 102 locks and 600 bridges.
Yeah, one year I counted bridge spans, we went underneath 630 bridge spans.
Yeah.
So this is, this, go ahead.
For those of you that have done it, is a year pretty much average? or-
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
You might hear about some guy in a whaler who did it in 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah. People have done it in kayaks, jet skis. We met a guy doing it in inflatable. So, I mean, any manner of craft is.
A lot of people though don't do it in the same year. They'll do a section of it, maybe, and then put their boat in storage in New York for the winter, and then come back and do some more. So it just depends on your schedule.
So this is Miami skyline coming from Biscayne Bay. Okay, you told me you want to talk.
So that's Rickenbacker Causeway. We're coming from the Biscayne Yacht Club, basically headquartered in Miami. I didn't take many in Florida because everybody knows what Florida is. So there's one. I think the next one's Jacksonville. That's the Florida Club. The
It's the
Jacksonville.
oldest FCYC club.
The oldest club the first yacht club in Florida.
Wow.
And
It's
if
a
you ever
beautiful-
have a chance, it's a lot
It's
of
a
fun.
beautiful club. You gotta go up to the St. John's a little ways, but it's worth it. It's worth the trip. And that's the Jacksonville skyline from their yacht club, looking out from their bar. And then that was a mural painted on the silos on the St. John's River. So that stuff's so cool. And that is the first loop. They were having a lot of fires. So that is actually the sun through the smoke of the fires from, I think we were in South Georgia.
We actually woke up to ash all over
The boat. And that's Cumberland Island, which is right at the Florida-Georgia border. So-
Recognize that, Wayne?
Oh, yeah. Just looking for the home tree.
Yeah, it's behind Donna.
So that's our boat for those of you.
Yeah, that's
that-
our boat, and that's I think it's a Cumberland National Seashore, right? Yeah, so there's beautiful hiking there. From that anchorage, you can walk through various different types of, like lowlands, uplands, dunes, all the way over to the ocean. It's 3.5 miles each way. So it's
Pigs, armadillos, horses.
horses. I think I got some horses on here. The wild horses.
Cue the horse.
Yeah. On the north end of the island, there's a house that's probably not gonna be there too long. Sitting right on the edge of the sand. So that's St. Andrew's Sound, that's between Cumberland Island and, the next place, which is Jekyll Island.
We stopped there for lunch and I kept looking at these people going, they really look familiar, so I go up and I'm like, you look really familiar. And they go, well, we usually are in Marathon. They're members here. That's how I remember.
That was the hospital, wasn't it?
No, I can't remember their name.
I'm not loud enough. One thing I learned on the loop is that there's a lot of white pelicans, and we never see them down here. But once you start going north, you see them, and they are gigantic if you've never seen one. They make the brown pelicans look like sparrows. And the interesting thing about them is they don't dive. They herd the fish. So they have to, they fish communally because they have to be in a group. And it's pretty interesting. They're completely different from the brown pelicans. And that is the marsh in Georgia. And this is a American Cruise Line ship, which they take through the whole intercoastal. We were coming through a little cut that's barely wider than that ship. And the captain called the boat in front of me and said, would you please stop? Because when I come through there, there's no room for anybody else. And he wasn't kidding. So we see those routinely. Isle of Hope is a cute little place that's just south of Savannah, on a little twist of the river. Beautiful little spot. And you also pass things like this. This is a container ship on the Savannah River, which you have to cross when you're doing the loop. Our first loop, we were following all the signs and going on the intercoastal, and we just crossed the river and a guy called me on the radio and he said, "Are you on the Intercoastal Waterway?" And I said, "Yeah," and he said, "I've been driving around in here for an hour trying to find it, can I follow you?"
There you go.
This was a guy that probably needed Zito.
That was the guy that was following you.
That's one thing I learned is just because somebody's going somewhere, you shouldn't necessarily follow them, because they don't necessarily know what they're doing. This is just before, on the waterway, just before Hilton Head. And you'll see lots of these guys swimming around. And that's another shot of the marsh in Georgia. There's a place called Cane Patch Creek, which is out in the middle of nowhere, basically. It's quiet, it's dark, but it's beautiful. It's one of our favorite stops. That's just a scenic picture, some moss and a tree. We thought this was interesting. This is on the Waccamaw River, north of Georgetown, South Carolina. They apparently go out to the island and pick the kids up and take them to school in a boat. Pretty cool. Turtles. This is an oxbow on the Waccamaw River, just south of Myrtle Beach. And you see all the holes in the tree there. There's a whole bunch of woodpecker nests. Very, very fun to stop there. Lots of owls there
Yeah,
too.
it's my favorite tree. I like, we have to stop at that anchorage because I just love that tree.
You know what's cool about that too is that you can see your transition into fresh water there.
Yes,
So
yeah.
a lot of these places, you're the whole way up and down, you're transitioning from salt to fresh. And this is
Yeah.
some
Yeah,
fresh
Once
water.
This
you-
water's really brown from all the tannins in it.
Once you pass Savannah and Hilton Head, you start transitioning into fresh water. And by the time you get up here, this is all fresh water. This is a place called Nile Hammock Bay, which everybody stops because if you're a slow boat, because of the distances, you have to stop there, and it's on the base at Cherry Point. Camp Lejeune, right. So they're always training, and they train these tilt rotors there. We see them all the time. Almost every time we stop there, they're really loud. And you can see them just practicing all the time. Now this is, before we get to Norfolk, this is the Dismal Swamp Canal. And it's about 100 feet wide. You don't wanna pass anybody if you can help it. And what I learned from the first loop was don't follow anybody. Because their prop stirs up the water and stuff comes up and then you hit it.
Yeah, it's very shallow. I think it's maybe 6 feet. Does
Yeah.
that ring a bell?
It's like 25 miles of that. It's very remote, it's beautiful. One guy had a hand crank bridge that was about 3 feet wide that he would crank across the canal, and then he would run his cattle across it, and then he would retract it. Crazy stuff. This is Norfolk now. We went through we went through the canal, and the next stop is Norfolk, and we never did figure out why they were doing this, but they had the fire boats out and they were spraying water all over the place. The next one is even more spectacular than that, where they really cranked them up. But it was pretty interesting. We saw these big hovercrafts by Norfolk. You see all kinds of things on the water. Ships. If you look up, if you Google it, Google says the US Navy has 400 ships. We've seen at least 100 in Norfolk, so I know that's a lie. There's our old first mate, Atticus. And this is Solomon's Island, Maryland. That's the Maritime Museum. I think we anchored right in front of it.
I think that's St. Michael's.
says right here, Solomon's Island, Maryland.
I stand corrected.
You can come up and read it if you want. I'm pretty sure that's what it says.
There is one in St. Michael's, it looks very similar.
Yeah, there is one there, it looks just like that, but that's not it.
So there's a restaurant in St. Michael's called Hideaway or Hidden Away or something.
Hideaway Cafe, I believe.
We went there and got a burger and french fries, and Dan's like, he says in his booming voice, "These french fries taste just like Bourdain's." And the woman comes over and she goes, "That's because that's where I got the recipe." She was the proprietor. She raised her kids in Marathon. She used to buy all of her seafood from Brutus.
Oh,
And now she and her 3 sons run this
Started that restaurant,
Yeah. It's pretty funny. When she heard that, she goes, "That's because it is Bourdain's."
And where is this?
It's in
Solomon's Island, Maryland.
Okay.
And this is Thomas Point Lighthouse, just south of Annapolis. And I got another better shot of it there. And then that's the Annapolis Bay Bridge, but we were in between it.
It makes its own wind.
Yeah, and it's interesting that it's curved. I mean, it's land and water. Why did they curve it? It had to make it more complicated, but it looks pretty cool when you go underneath of it. This is Cape May, New Jersey. So we went from Annapolis up through the C&D Canal, which is, I think, 14 miles long, and then down the Delaware Bay to get to Cape May. A lot of pretty old houses in Cape May, and the ugly mug. And now we're in Atlantic City. We've gone both the intercoastal route between there and on the outside. If you have any more than we do, which is 4 feet, you don't want to do the inside route because we pushed a lot of sand around with our bottom, so it's pretty shallow. And this is New Jersey on the weekend. That's the intercoastal, and that's just a quick snapshot of how many boats there are. And the New Jersey guys love to throw the anchor out and fish in the middle of the channel, and they're not gonna move for you. So it gets quite challenging. We try not to go anywhere on the weekends if we could help it. But you might recognize that. Now we're in New York, Empire State Building. It's kind of neat driving your house past the Statue of Liberty. And while we were there, they were having a swim around the Statue of Liberty, so it was full of people swimming. Talk about a dangerous thing to do. There's a crazy amount of boat traffic there, but there they are swimming. And that's the Verrazano Bridge in the upper right. This is a lighthouse on the Hudson. Now we're going up the Hudson. A lot of these old lighthouses that are very well maintained and picturesque. This is Fort Ticonderoga, so now we've gone all the way to the top of the Hudson, through the Chambly Canal, and now we're in the bottom of Lake Champlain. And this, I mean, the vistas up there, once you get up into the lake, they're just gorgeous. Except they were having an algae bloom. And it was really, it wasn't, they said it was no health threat, but it was really kind of odd to see when especially when the sun shone on this and all that stuff. It was really interesting.
It's hard to find a place to anchor in Lake Champlain because it's very deep. So we finally found a cove that was like 40 feet deep. It was hotter than Hades.
It was 4th of July
So
weekend.
we were sitting on our swim platform, and there are people partying up on the shore, and I see some guy come out and gets a little whaler, comes out, and I was like, oh crap. He's gonna tell us that we're impeding his view or give us some ration that we shouldn't be there. Quite the opposite. He goes, can I talk to you guys for a little while? We're like, absolutely. He goes, well, that's land that's in a family trust. this is our annual meeting. He goes, if there's 200 people over there, so there's 300 opinions on what needs to be happened, and I just need to get away. And he said, plus I really wanna ask, are you from Big Pine Key? Cause that's the hailing port on our boat. And we said, yes, but we had the boat in Marathon now. And he goes, oh, well, you might know my mom, she works at Key Colony Inn.
She was a waitress. I said, is she about this tall with black curly hair? And he said, yeah. I said, yeah, I know who she is. Small world. That's another Lake Champlain photo. This is Burlington, Vermont.
Cool.
We had friends that were there, and we stayed there about a week.
Actually,
And
we
then-
stayed there 2 weeks because we lost a transmission.
Yeah, we had a transmission go out, and we have these odd English transmissions called newage. And the mechanic said, well, your loop is done, because we can get this rebuilt, but it's gonna take like 3 months. I said, no, not to worry. I made a phone call down here to Marathon Boat here, and I said, put my spare transmission in a box and ship it up here. 5 days later, we were back on the water, so. This is Shelburne, Vermont.
Foresight.
And then now we've gone through the canal that goes from Lake Champlain to the St. Lawrence. We took a right, we went east up to, this is Quebec City, and this is the Frontenac Hotel.
Is that from water? You took that picture from the water?
Yeah, yeah, and this is, I took a picture from the marine at night. This is what from the harbor looks like at night. It was just spectacular.
The harbor is really cool going into Quebec City because the river is down here and you actually have to go through a lock. And they raise you up and you come out in the harbor and you're right at the foot of the Frontenac. And it is so calm and peaceful and just beautiful up there.
Yeah, because there's 22 feet of tide. They keep the harbor at the same level, and then they lock you in and out depending on the tide. I think when we left, the gates were open. I don't think we had to go through it. And this is another shot of the city. We just loved it. Absolutely beautiful. Now we're on the St. Lawrence. The Singer Castle. The guy that invented the Singer sewing machine. It's a whole island. There's a picture of it. We toured that. Her mother was a seamstress, so she had some
My mother
interest in
never
that.
had a singer.
No, she didn't.
She looked down on them.
But beautiful, beautiful place. And so now we're.
Now we skipped a lot.
Yeah, we skipped a lot, but this is the most interesting part. So we're at a place called Peterborough. This is an
This is about
interesting lot.
halfway up that Trent separated canal system.
Right, and so we skipped all the little blocks with the little wooden doors, but this one is really interesting. It basically has like 2 bathtubs, and it works on displacement, so whatever boat you put in there displaces that much water. And you'll see this next picture, so it's 82 feet of lift. You're either going up or you're going down 82 feet. So you see those boats are pulling in, and then this gate comes up behind you and seals up that tub. So however much those vessels weigh, they displace that much water. So the tubs always weigh the same no matter whether there's something in them or not. And the whole thing operates on a 10 horsepower motor. Moves them up and down. And so you hear all those guys are going up, and the boats in here are coming down. Pretty neat, pretty ingenious.
Cool.
And then we pulled in, and then this is, after they raised us up, this is me looking out the back. There's nothing there except that gate. You hope that gate doesn't come open. Because if it does, you're probably gonna die.
Going surfing.
Did somebody have a question? Oh, okay. And that's, so now you're way above the water, 82 feet. There's a waterway. At the other end, there's another lock, similar. This is the Kirkfield lock. So in this one, we have to pull into the high end, right? So I'm driving and all I can see is air on the end down there. It was pretty interesting. She wasn't worried, but she wasn't driving either. So now I think that one's about 65 or 70 feet. So now we go down. And that's looking down to the other pan there from our boat. And she's unlocking the safety pins that keep the thing from coming open accidentally, I think.
Little tiny cotter pins.
Yeah, they're not-
When you're depending on that to keep you from.
Yeah, they're not very big, but they work. Now the next interesting one is this one. It's called the Big Chute. So basically what it is it's a dry dock. Now, unfortunately, it wasn't being operated when we got there, so it was in this condition. So I called them, and they drive it into the water. You drive up on here, and all these straps grab you and hold your boat.
And they do a nice little look-see at your running gear.
Yeah, you can have them
Make sure-
inspect everything for you while it's on there, but now we're going up that ramp. I'm on the boat, you can see the Burgee here. And it takes you right over top of the road,
Oh my gosh.
right over top of the road. And now we're going down the other side.
Were you
Yeah,
swinging?
it was a little scary going down the other side, let me tell you.
Because you're kind of swinging a little bit.
Yeah, this thing, and it runs on a cable.
Well,
you know.
this time we went really, really slow because they were testing it. We're
Well,
like,
they were
"That is
inspecting the cable,
not
right, I said, well, let's hope it's a
fuzzy."
good cable.
It was a really slow ride.
Yeah, so this guy was waiting to go through, and since I couldn't get a picture of a boat in it before we got there, I got him, I think.
What's the railroad track?
That's pretty much
Pretty
what it
much
is.
what it is.
At the top of the roller coaster.
It does.
Yeah,
That's what it looks
You
like.
think, all this weight, and we're gonna go slow down this hill? Well,
And
luckily,
it keeps the boat level.
yeah, it's pretty much.
It's not like you're going.
It's not perfect, it's not perfect.
Yeah, it's pretty level.
When we went through with, that last bunch of boats, maybe when we were coming up to visit you, how many boats were there? You're not by yourself.
Well, we were this time, but yeah, they have enough belts, I think there was 3 of us in that thing, us and 2 smaller
Are you in a
boats.
sling?
In slings,
Yeah.
yeah, you'll see it in a second. So we're coming down. Now this is one going up, so you can see him hanging, he's hanging in the slings.
Yeah.
And they're taking him up, we're down here now, he's going up. But it's big, it must be at least 100 feet, that thing.
Yeah.
They put a lot of little boats in it, it has a lot of straps.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
It was pretty crazy. That's called the Big Chute.
Isn't it?
And now
Okay.
now we're up to Marty's. Anybody have any questions about any of that?
No, it was.
And this dumps you out into the Georgian Bay, which is the north part of Lake Huron, which is,
Up here.
we just felt like we were running out of time. It is quite spectacular. It's all rocks. You do not stray out of the channel because it's very.
It's easy to navigate, it's well marked.
And it
The
is
water's like gin clear,
Stunning.
so if you pay attention, you're okay. The only thing we hit was we were in a real bad thunderstorm. And I hit a giant tree that was probably 40 feet long, so probably wasn't gonna miss it anyway. Hit right on the stem of the boat, and I thought it was the end of the world. I was down there throwing the hatches open, trying to see where the water was coming in. Didn't even knock the paint off the boat.
People often ask me what my favorite cruising ground is, and it's really hard for me to make a decision about my favorite cruising ground. I mean, Jerry and I have chartered in New Zealand in the Bay of Islands, which is spectacular. In Tahiti, Bora Bora, just absolutely stunning. The Vancouver area and the San Juan Islands in the northwest of the United States. And then since we've gotten Monarch, we've put over 42,000 nautical miles under her keel. And so we've done 3 great loops. We have done multiple trips to the Bahamas, up and down every coast of Florida. And I still come back to the North Channel as my very favorite cruising ground. So North Channel is in the very, I can't quite reach it here, the very upper channel there. This is Lake Huron, and the North Channel is at the very upper part there.
It's clear up here. It's about as far north as you go on the route.
Right. How many of you have been to the North Channel by boat? So there have been a few. So you will understand what I am talking about. It is an area that has absolutely beautiful scenery. All of the rose quartz granite rocks, the tortured evergreen trees that are clinging to those rocks. And as Donna mentioned, it is all rock. There are no forgiving sandbars like we have in our beautiful Florida area. If you hit something, you will know it, and you might be out of commission. So it's important to keep a very close watch and have really good charts, really good navigation equipment. Here's a close-up chart of the North Channel. It is bounded on the south by Manitoulin Island, which is the largest freshwater island in the world. And it runs from Killarney at the far western end of the Georgian Bay, all the way over to Drummond Island, Thessalon on the coast of Ontario, and bordered on the north by the Canadian Shield, a very remote area. And until, I don't know, we've been up there so many times, probably 15 times. There were times when there was absolutely no connectivity anywhere. But then there is the Trans-Canadian Highway that runs north of the Canadian Shield there. And of course now there are cell towers all along the way. So you really are not out of touch anymore, which is kind of a shame, because one of the nice things about being up there is being out of touch. One of the nice things about how protected it is in the North Channel, even when Lake Huron, which is very large and can get very snotty, is too rough to go, you can oftentimes still cruise in the North Channel. So it's protected enough that you can do that.
So are anchorages in each of those coves as you go going around?
There are many, many anchorages. There aren't too many harbors with marinas, but there are many, many areas that you can anchor in. The area, of course, is entirely fresh water. There is no salt. There are no tides. It's a different cruising than cruising in the south. The water at times looks like the Bahamas. It's so clear and beautiful. You can oftentimes see the bottom in 20 to 30 to 40 feet of water. And the water is so clear and clean that in many areas you can drink directly from the lake. As I mentioned, the shoreline has a lot of beautiful pink and white granite, shaped by glaciers thousands of years ago. And the anchorages are plentiful. There's an endless variety of places to anchor, and a few very quaint towns with harbors and grocery stores and places to provision. But by and large, you can be in many of these anchorages and not see another boat that night. The best time to cruise the North Channel, of course, is in the middle of summer. So I would say the peak season is probably July and August. Some of the locals stretch it into September, but late September you have to find frost on the deck, which is not always a good thing.
You're not changing pictures if you think you are. Where is that, Marty? Do you know?
That is Whales Back, which is a channel within a channel. It's on the far north end of the channel. It is all about gunk holing, I think. So here you see me on the bow of Monarch, getting ready to anchor. One of our favorite places is you travel from the east, from Killarney, and start entering the channel. One of our favorite places to anchor is Covered Portage Cove, which is north and a little bit west of Killarney. It's a beautiful spot to anchor. The entrance is really narrow, as many of these coves are. And the pink granite rocks are certainly worth seeing both above and below the water. Just north of Covered Portage Cove, I think I skipped one here. There's another example of a little rainbow and beautiful, beautiful place to anchor. And there's my boat, Monarch. You may have seen her on slip number 5 right now. Just north of Covered Portage Cove is one of the most striking anchorages in the North Channel. And it is Bayfin, which ends in something called the Pool. Now, Bayfin is a very, very narrow area that a lot of people think look like the fjords. And so when you transit that area, you really have to move along carefully and very close to the granite walls so that you at times you feel like you could reach out and actually touch them. You could certainly throw underhanded something if you could throw that high. And the Bayfin, it is a very convoluted channel. It winds all around. You have to be careful and watch the charts and watch the water. It's important, I think, at many times to have someone on the bow spotting and to try to enter and exit anchorages with the sun at your back so you can really see what is going on under the water.
Marty, what's along the edges of the water there? Is that the rose quartz that you were talking about?
Yes, that is rose quartz, the pinkish edges. And it's more visible and has a higher color because of the waves that lap on it. You know, above that, you have more of the lichen that grows, so it's not quite as colorful unless you scrub it.
Marty, is it also because the level of the lake is down in that year?
You know, I don't know the answer
Okay.
to that.
Just, the complication is you have to look at the level of the lake to figure out how deep it is.
Right. I mean, it'll be chart datum like
Yeah.
it is with nautical charts for the ocean.
One
You
other
just have to
question,
know
is
what
that the entrance to the pool behind that boat?
No, actually, the entrance is in the other direction. That's
Okay.
just a little channel.
So you kind of calibrate your charts to the level of the water for that year.
Right.
Okay.
So the pool's entrance is marked by a small island. And the island, back in the days when we would go there, was owned by Ralph Evinrude of Evinrude Outboard fame and his wife, the actress Frances Langford. And they had, at the time, a beautiful Evinrude blue hulled 118-foot Defoe Cruisemaster yacht that they brought all the way from Florida up to the pool. This is the boat pictured in Little Current, which we'll talk about a little bit later. A beautiful boat, and they would bring it all the way up with crew, of course. Have you seen that boat there?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
They would also visit the Detroit Yacht Club, where we were members for 25 years. Every other year at least, they were very avid boaters. This is a picture of, I don't know, it got small, but a picture of the island that marks the entrance to the pool at the end. That is their little cabin. And they would tie their big yacht up, one end on the island at the cabin, the other end on the tip of the peninsula, tie it up at 2 points. And then they would, because this place had no electricity, when the boat was there, it had electricity. They powered it with the generators that were on board their boat. So it was very cool to see it. If you are in the pool, make sure you take your dinghy into shore and hike up into the La Cloche Mountains to see Lake Topaz. It is as beautiful as its name. Looks like a topaz gem. You guys hiked up there, didn't you?
Yeah, that's the only way to get there.
Yes, absolutely.
No boats.
This area has virtually no roads either, so.
It's a bit of a treacherous hike, but it's definitely
Worth
Walk
it.
up a dry stream bed to
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Moving westward, I recommend Haywood Islands, Browning Cove, where we dinghied ashore and did our walkabout that we like to do virtually every time we anchored. Before you move on past it to Strawberry Island and Strawberry Island Light. Then you will come to Little Current, where there's just a little current in the water that flows through there. And a absolutely historic antique one-lane swing bridge. You have to time your time there to make sure that you can make the bridge. That is the only road that accesses all of Manitoulin Island to the mainland. There's another way to get there from Tobermory on a 380-foot car ferry that goes into South Weymouth. But this is the way you would get there by car. This is actually a better place to provision in Little Curragh than Killarney, because it has a road that goes to it, and Killarney doesn't really have any roads that go to it, so everything that's brought in there, at least at the time that we were cruising up there, would come by boat or by plane, I guess, by seaplane. There were always lots of seaplanes too. The marinas at Little Curragh have fuel, there are several grocery stores, and everything, as is typical with these little towns, is within walking distance of the dock. So after that stop in Little Curragh, you would typically go to Clapperton Island, Beatty Bay, which is a beautiful anchorage you can see there. That almost looks like Syzygy there.
It does, I did a double take, I'm like, I don't think we were there with you, but it sure
I don't
looks
think
like
so
Syzygy.
either, but yeah.
Hey, it could have been.
It could have been. Eagle Island is also a good spot to anchor there. And that's very near the Benjamin Islands, which are quite famous, probably the most photographed area of the North Channel. And there is my friends, the Bowens, Queen Bee, their 68-foot Grand Alaskan at anchor just off the Benjamins. And you can see how that quartz is just amazing rock formations there. There's an area there that's actually called the Sow and Pigs. So one of the rocks looks like this giant sow in the water, and then there's all the little piglets around it. It's very cool. The Benjamins in particular is very popular, so if you do want to anchor there, you'd have to go in relatively early in the day. And that area isn't a real big anchorage, so it might be a little crowded. In some of these areas, one of the ways that you would anchor in, say, a cove that is relatively circular, is you would drop your hook and you would back toward shore. And then you would take your dinghy with a long line and tie the stern to a tree on shore, so that you'd have a 2-point setup from the anchor to the line on shore. There are a lot of really skinny navigation areas here. Here we're approaching Little Detroit, which is a very, very skinny little passage. It is recommended that you do a securite call, because you don't want someone coming the other direction if you're going through it. And it is very, very skinny. And there is a blind right angle turn in the middle of it, so you can't see what's coming. But to be helpful, they paint a white arrow on the rocks, you know that it's that way. So, and this is from Monarch, so I could have taken a potato and thrown it out to the shore. It's amazing. It's important to have a very steady captain at the helm, which I was fortunate enough to have. There's another shot of Whale's Back. It's called that because it looks like the back of a whale from the distance, I guess from a far distance. It also kind of looks like a manatee from a long way away. Not that people up there would know what that was. Make sure your dinghy is gassed up and ready to go, because exploring is absolutely fabulous up there. You look at all the little coves, you can go ashore and have a picnic lunch, or even build a little fire on the rocks, as long as you're careful that it doesn't get away from you. We particularly like a place called Bear Drop Harbor. You guys were in there too. It's just absolutely fabulous. This is what the shoreline looks like. And I don't know, the night we were both there together, were there any other boats that night? Or we were probably there for many more than one night.
At the other time we were in there, there was quite a few boats.
Yeah, you could spend days in your dinghy exploring, and we also spent nights laying on the upper deck of Monarch looking at the stars. There's virtually no light pollution up there. And the Milky Way appears so close that you could reach out and touch it. We were there for, was it the Persons meteor showers in August? Yeah, we had laid on the upper deck several years watching those in August. Always tried to time our trips so that we could do that. So the North Channel is an absolutely fabulous place to cruise. You'll move westward from here to Thessalon, which is a Canadian town on the North Shore. A good place to pick up the last few things you need, and that is about at the west end of the North Channel. From there, it's a short trip south to Harbor Island. I think this is another one, a bear drop. This is just really stunning. But you make a short trip south to Harbor Island, which is a round island that's hollow, with almost all harbor and very little island, and you can go in there, and then you can dinghy into town at Drummond Island or at Detour, which is pictured here, to clear customs back into the US from Canada. And there's the Detour light. While the North Channel is obviously a really long way from Marathon, it's worth it if you want to do the Louvre and you want to spend wonderful time cruising. If you don't have that time, you could do what some people do, which is get a trailerable boat and take it on a trailer, launch it out of Little Current, Gore Bay, Tobermory, and you're there. That's what you did, Jan, wasn't it?
Yeah, we trailed up.
Absolutely. The other option would be to go into Gore Bay, where they charter boats. You can charter sail boats and power boats and trawlers there. And you're right in the North Channel, so that gives you a real head start on seeing that. That certainly is one of the quickest ways to get to enjoy the beauty of the North Channel. It is just fabulous and highly recommended. From there, of course, you'll be heading on the rest of the loop, which I guess we're doing at the next presentation.
Yes.
Yep. Any questions on the North Channel?
Temperature of the water.
Oh, bird.
I'd say it's at least 70 because I went in.
Yeah, if you're
It wasn't
there,
70.
if you're there in the heat of August,
We always went at the end of August, beginning of September.
yeah, if you go in the heat of August, and it's a shallow place, and the wind has not been blowing, you might be able to
It's
swim.
gotta go in the water, that's my
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, the first
How
time
did
that
the
we
black
were
fly?
in
It has to be
Basin,
80 for
we were in a
Donna.
25-foot boat and we had no shower, so the only way to bathe
was August.
was just to jump in. And it had been cold the entire 2 weeks that we were gone, but we were like, okay, this is getting a little stinky around here. The water was 50. I swear to God, he strips down, he jumps in the water, it's so cold, he jumps out and he's not even wet.
Well, and what we would
That's not
say,
entirely true.
what we would say is you jump in the water and your body shrinks away from the dirt, and then you're good to go. They have a question, yes.
How are the black flies?
Well, in the North Channel, there's a place called the Black Fly Point. So they're quite bad.
I don't remember any.
We really have not run into many insects of any sort
No.
in the North Channel, but I know that there are black flies, or they wouldn't name a point after them. Any other questions?
So what time of year did you go and enjoy it most?
Well, we have been there in May, and we've been there at the end of September, but if you want the more temperate temperatures, August and, July, late July, maybe very early September, but I would say July and August are the prime months.
Dan, Donna, and Marty, that was great. We have fond memories of the North Channel also. The only thing I wanted to say about Bear Drop is the legend at Bear Drop, there are two parts of the peninsula that come straight down, and what we heard was, I think the Indians used to chase the bears off the cliff so they would die and they would get beat. That was our legend.
Well, that's interesting, because bears can swim, but
Well, But anyway, anyway, thank you again for coming. We do have 2 more non-cruising talks this month. We have a woman from, who's gonna talk about legacy giving. Her name is Elizabeth Brown. And she's coming on January 14th at 4:30. And then our own Jeff Dalton is coming on January 22nd to talk about cybersecurity in America and how we older folk can help defend ourselves from scams and other things. And then the SWATX on February 17th are gonna talk about their cruise to Cuba in 2017. So once again, if you have a story to tell, let me know and I'll work on scheduling it. Thanks again. And now we're gonna have the cruisers meeting.